Right. So we're diving into Bella Mackie's What a Way to Go.
Okay.
And it seems like we've got quite the puzzle on our hands this time.
Yeah.
We've got these StoryGraph reviews, and they're calling it, well, everything. Really dark, funny.
Right.
Goodreads opinions are all over the place.
Yeah, it's pretty divided.
And then on top of all that, we've got the excerpts from the book itself.
Which just adds another layer to it all, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
So one thing StoryGraph seems to agree on, though, character-driven story.
Definitely.
But are we talking characters we love to hate or just plain hate?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
That's the real mystery here. I
Yeah.
think that's a good question.
And the Goodreads reviews, they don't make it any easier, honestly. Some readers, they were hooked by all the twists and turns.
Right.
But others, they found them a bit much.
Really?
Yeah, almost over the top, you know?
Huh.
It's
Interesting.
like bordering on cartoonish.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Which honestly makes me even more curious about these excerpts now.
Right.
Mackie just throws us right into it.
Head first.
Anthony, the deceased, by the way,
Of course.
he's narrating his own 60th birthday party
Oh, wow.
from beyond the grave.
Talk about a unique perspective.
And speaking of the party,
Yeah.
Lavish doesn't even begin to cover it.
Oh, I bet.
He goes on and on about these Italian-made glowing orbs. Glowing orbs
Okay.
for decoration.
All right.
And, you know, this might sound funny, but
What?
these orbs, they end up being a pretty important detail. Yeah, they actually end up illuminating the scene of his, well...
Demise.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. The irony.
Right. It's like he's writing a lifestyle blog
Aha! Totally.
while simultaneously starring in like a morbid comedy sketch.
You nailed it. That's exactly the vibe.
And he's completely oblivious, you know,
Yeah.
to the whole, you know, being dead thing.
Yeah. I guess you could say that's a pretty big detail to miss.
But it's that obliviousness, right?
Yeah.
That actually tells us something kind of important about Mackie's writing.
What's that?
She's using humor,
Okay.
but it's not just for laughs.
What do you mean?
There's this sharpness to it.
Interesting.
Like there's a social commentary simmering beneath the surface.
I see. So she's not just going for cheap laughs.
Definitely not.
More like a clever critique
Yep.
of, well, the wealthy, it seems like, their detachment from, you know, reality.
And don't forget their priorities,
Okay.
often absurd.
That too.
So she's doing a lot more than just making us chuckle.
Oh, absolutely. There's depth there.
It's like she's holding up a mirror.
To society's flaws, in a way.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but tell me,
Yeah.
it's not all satire, is it?
No, you're right. It's not all surface level.
Okay.
Because Mackie, she uses these different perspectives
Right.
to add these layers of complexity.
Like who?
Well, like Olivia, for example.
Anthony's wife.
Yes.
Okay.
And let's just say I don't think Thrilled quite covers it.
How about being married to him?
You got it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's this one part
Yeah.
where she fantasizes, basically,
Fantasizes
about Anthony's, death.
Oh, wow.
Like she imagines him being dragged out to sea.
Intense by a wave.
So what's Mackie going for here, you think?
Right. Is this dark humor?
Could be.
Is she foreshadowing something?
Possibly.
Or is this just Olivia needing to blow off some steam?
Yeah, good point.
It really makes you wonder about their relationship.
For sure, it adds a whole other dimension.
It does.
Because now we're left questioning, right?
Exactly.
How reliable are these narrators?
Especially Anthony, right?
Yeah, especially him.
Because he seems completely clueless.
About how others see him.
Totally. Even in death, he's got this blind spot.
It's kind of fascinating, in a morbid way.
It is. And then we've got, remember I mentioned the excerpts?
Yeah.
We've got the sleuth.
The Who.
The sleuth, that's what she's called in the book. Okay.
And she's this, amateur detective
Interesting.
who becomes completely fixated on Anthony's case.
Okay, so she's digging into all the details.
All the nitty-gritty, yeah.
The kind of stuff that gets true crime fans going.
Exactly.
I can see why they included her.
It's like Mackie wants us to examine our own morbid curiosity.
I can get behind that.
Because are we so quick to judge
Right, to jump to conclusions.
based on appearances?
Or in this case, a death.
Based on those initial, maybe even scandalous details.
The juicier the better, or so it seems.
Exactly. So it makes you think.
It does. It really does.
And remember those StoryGraph reviews?
Yeah, about...
They mentioned this whole limbo element.
Oh, right, with the afterlife bureaucracy?
Yes.
Okay, so how does that fit in?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Tell me more.
Because Anthony, he realizes he's dead, right?
Yeah.
And he is not happy about it.
Not one bit, I'm guessing.
Not even a little.
And to move on, he has to figure out what happened, right?
Exactly. He's got to solve his own murder.
Which, knowing how unreliable his memory seems,
Right.
that's going to be easier said than done.
Absolutely.
This is getting good.
It is. And that's where things start to get really, really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Because now we have this whodunit element.
Right, the classic mystery.
Exactly. But it's crashing headfirst into Anthony's own, well, let's just say creative memory.
He's unreliable, even to himself.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mackie is playing with us and with the genre itself.
I can see that.
Because it's not just a simple murder mystery anymore.
Something more.
Way more.
Like a blend, you think?
Exactly. Humor, suspense.
Don't forget the social commentary we talked about.
Oh, yeah. It's all there.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
Right. And we're just getting started.
I can't wait to dig deeper.
So we've got this suspicious death, right?
Right.
An unreliable narrator who's stuck in limbo.
Sounds about right.
And this whole cast of characters.
Oh, yeah.
Who seem, well, I don't know.
A little too interested in his money, maybe?
Maybe more interested in the inheritance than actual justice for Anthony.
You think?
It makes you wonder, does Mackie actually deliver on this?
Deliver on what?
The mystery.
Ah, good question.
Is there a satisfying answer, or does it all just kind of get lost in the chaos?
Well, based on what we see in these excerpts,
Yeah.
she's definitely walking a fine line.
Okay, I can see that.
Take that part where Anthony's talking about his workout routine.
Oh, right.
He's so adamant about how, like a man of his, physical prowess.
Right.
He wouldn't just fall off a jetty.
He's so sure of himself.
Exactly.
Even in death, he's convinced he's got it all figured out.
But the thing is, his memory, it's just
A complete mess.
a complete mess, full of holes.
So how are we supposed to believe anything he says?
We're not, really, and I think that's the point.
Okay, so where does that leave us?
Well, we're in Anthony's head, right?
Trapped with his jumbled thoughts.
Exactly. Grappling with these fragmented memories alongside him.
It's like those true crime documentaries
Oh, I know what you mean.
where they retrace the victim's every step.
But there's always that one thing.
That missing piece.
Yes. And in this case, it's Anthony's own memory of what happened.
It's brilliant, really.
It is.
Because the more Anthony tries to remember,
Yeah.
the more convinced he becomes
Convinced of what?
that something's off.
Like someone's hiding something.
Exactly.
And not just someone.
You think it's the family?
He seems to think so.
Which makes those little glimpses we get.
Into the family drama.
Yes. So much more interesting.
Oh, tell me about it. There's something else.
They're not exactly a grieving family, are they?
Not in the traditional sense, that's for sure.
Mackie does this thing.
What's that?
She uses these little lines.
Like what?
Like, Anthony will criticize his daughter's outfit at the funeral.
No way.
Or he'll comment on his son's defiant expression.
It's like she's dropping hints.
Exactly. Little breadcrumbs of resentment.
And secret.
Oh, definitely secrets.
Which reminds me,
Yeah.
remember that Goodreads review? The one who couldn't stand any of the characters?
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that one.
Maybe that's the whole point.
What do you mean?
Mackie isn't giving us easy characters.
The kind you instantly love or hate.
Exactly. This family.
They're messy.
Oh, they're messy.
Flawed.
Completely.
Maybe even more so.
Mm.
And it's through those flaws
Yes.
that we start to question everyone's motives.
Okay, so who should we be suspicious of?
Well, Freddie, for one.
Anthony's son.
Yeah, there's that email he sends.
To the sleuth.
Right, where he asks about Olivia.
And her being so insistent on sticking to the plan.
What plan? That's what I want to know.
Right. Is he implying Olivia's involved?
Or is he trying to throw her under the bus to protect himself?
It's like they're all playing this twisted game.
And we're stuck in the middle trying to figure out who's playing who.
And speaking of players,
Oh, you're going to bring up Lainey.
we can't forget about Lainey, the mistress.
Right. But is she really important?
That's the question, isn't it?
Is she just heartbroken? Or is there something more to her?
This feels like one of those over-the-top plot elements those Goodreads reviewers were talking about.
It could so easily go that way.
Right.
But Mackie, she's smart.
What do you mean?
She uses Lainey to show us Anthony's hypocrisy.
Ah, I see the double standard.
Exactly. And it highlights how his actions, his choices,
They have to have consequences.
even beyond the grave.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. So let me get this straight.
Okay.
We've got family drama, potential financial intrigue.
Don't forget the love triangle.
Oh, right. A love triangle gone wrong. It's a lot.
It really is.
So what about the sleuth? Where does she fit into all of this?
That's where things get really interesting, I think.
Tell me everything.
Well, remember those Goodreads reviews that said it felt like two separate stories?
Yeah.
I think that's because the sleuth's investigation, it becomes its own parallel narrative.
Fascinating.
It's like we're reading two mysteries at once.
One internal.
Anthony and his memories.
And one external.
The sleuth and her investigation.
Wow. And they're both searching for answers.
And maybe, just maybe, they're both facing some uncomfortable truths along the way.
Okay, so, big question.
Shoot.
Is this book worth it?
Ah, the $1 million question.
Because it seems like Mackie is going for something different here.
Absolutely. It's not just about who did it.
Right. It's more about the why, the how.
The fallout.
Exactly. The ripple effects.
And that's where those Goodreads reviews, I think they make sense.
How so?
Because this isn't a simple thriller, and some people might not like that.
Especially that ending everyone's talking about.
Yeah, it might not be for everyone.
But for those who are looking for something more.
Something that challenges the genre, keeps them guessing.
Oh, way to go. It sounds like it delivers.
It delivers in spades.
All right, so we've talked about the twists, the turns, the characters.
Right.
But those Goodreads reviews, they're really buzzing, about the ending.
There's a lot of back and forth.
Some loved it.
Others, not so much.
So what's the verdict? Satisfying or a total flop?
It's not your typical ending.
How so?
It's not really a case closed kind of thing.
I can see that.
Mackie seems more interested in exploring what Anthony's death reveals.
About the people around him.
Exactly.
Which makes sense.
It all goes back to the title, really.
It's not just about how he died.
It's about what that death means for everyone else.
Right, like a catalyst.
Exactly. And the ending, it really drives that point home.
Okay, so how does it all wrap up?
Well, remember Anthony and his whole limbo situation?
Oh, yeah, and the afterlife bureaucracy, right?
All of that, it takes on this, well, it's almost poignant.
Poignant? How so?
Because Anthony, he's forced to confront the consequences of his actions.
Or inactions, maybe.
Yeah, maybe more like that, his inactions in life.
So it's not just about solving the mystery of his death.
It's about facing the life he lived.
It's like he's getting a performance review from the universe.
Yeah, something like that.
Only, instead of a boss, it's his own conscience he has to answer to.
Exactly. And those parts where he's watching his family fight over his will.
Oh, yeah.
Judging their every move.
It's kind of funny, in a dark way.
Totally. But it's also Mackie showing us the impact, or maybe the lack of impact he had on them.
So even in death, he's stuck in that same cycle.
Oblivious and judgmental.
It's almost sad.
Almost, but then Mackie throws in that dark humor and you can't help but laugh.
She walks that line so well.
She really does. But the ending, it's not all about Anthony's afterlife.
Oh, right. What about the missing ring and Olivia?
That's where things get really interesting.
Tell me.
Remember those Goodreads reviewers who thought the plot was over the top?
Yeah, they might have a point.
Right. The whole mistress thing, it could have been a disaster.
It could have gone full soap opera.
Totally. But Mackie uses it to highlight Anthony's hypocrisy.
And the far-reaching consequences of his actions.
Exactly. It's not pretty, but it's effective.
Okay, but what about the ending itself? What happens?
Well, it's not a courtroom showdown or anything.
No big reveal.
Not exactly. It's more of a slow burn.
Okay, like that.
We see the sleuth putting the pieces together.
The missing jewelry.
The holes in Olivia's story.
Freddie and his cryptic comments about a plan.
It all builds this sense of unease.
Like we don't know for sure what happened that night by the lake.
But we get the feeling Olivia's hiding something.
And sometimes that's enough, isn't it?
It can be.
That doubt, that suspicion.
It can shatter a carefully constructed facade.
And for Olivia, that might be the worst punishment of all.
It's like Mackie is saying that sometimes the real consequences aren't legal, they're social.
That reputation is everything.
Exactly. And some readers, they might not like that lack of closure.
Especially those who are hoping for a more traditional ending.
Right, where the bad guy gets caught, justice is served.
But if you look at it through a different lens,
one that appreciates the character work, the social commentary,
it becomes a much more satisfying ending.
Nuanced, thought-provoking.
It's not neat and tidy.
But it stays with you.
It makes you think.
And that's what good storytelling is all about, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, for those wondering if What a Way to Go lives up to the hype, well, it depends.
On what you're looking for.
If you want a fast-paced thriller with all the answers tied up neatly, this might not be for you.
But if you enjoy complex characters, sharp writing, and an ending that stays with you,
What a Way to Go is definitely worth checking out.
It might even make you appreciate those glowing orbs a little bit more.
That's it for this deep dive.
Until next time.
Happy reading, everyone.